ignition. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We are humans, not animals. Lizard people.
Every four computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Was the Word, the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
All right, so it's episode 23, Thursday, June 12th. Yes, it is episode 23. I did the
12,
research.
June 23rd. Gotcha.
So I did the research to confirm because I Alexed myself earlier and time traveled and thought we were way further along than that. So
Yep. I actually time traveled today on my way back from Evansville. So
yeah,
I go back in time and then I go forward into time, as I'm
Yes.
traveling through Vincennes.
straight north to south.
Yep. Yes. Sometimes I don't even go to Vincennes. Sometimes I go towards Bloomington and then go up that way and end up somewhere in Indianapolis.
That seems like the long way to go to get to Indianapolis.
Well, if you take from Evansville, if you take I-69.
Oh, if you're going from Evansville
yeah,
to
if you take
Indianapolis, yeah.
if you take
that's fine.
I-69, that runs right through B-Town all the way through.
Yep. I thought you were talking about coming from where you're at to
No.
over and up.
Yeah. Well, so if I'm going to, if I have a job in Indy, then I go from T-Town to Indy to, Evansville or whatever. So sometimes I have like 2 or 3 stops and we just make a big circle. So
Yep.
The other day I was in Springfield, Illinois.
It's a long way over there.
Yeah. Well, that was the day that I was telling you that I was driving down the road. And of course, like there's nothing out there. It's just me and Jesus Christ.
Yep.
And no other people. And I I'm just chugging along, listening to these podcasts. And all of a sudden I see this bird suspended in air. It's not going anywhere. It's not flapping its wings. It's just right there. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not real. It can't be. It's witchcraft.
No, birds can do that.
No, I figured they could, but I like my story, and you're watering it down because now somebody's going to have to go back and look. Can birds suspend themselves in air?
Yeah,
I've seen airplanes in Indianapolis do that, where they're just hovering, and you're like, bruh.
It's that one is an optical illusion. That one is kind of freaky.
Yeah. The first time I saw that, I was driving towards downtown. And of course, if you're coming from the west side of Indiana, going into Indianapolis, you just see, there's always an airplane flying. And I was looking up and I was like, this airplane is not moving. It's not moving. So,
So
it was
that
very
actually
interesting.
leads very nicely into our first topic of what is real.
Yep.
So
Tyler Todd is not real.
he's not
He is
real.
an AI-generated host on this podcast. He'll be here later.
Who had to go back to work. So,
Job schmob.
yep. So, first topic tonight, what is real anymore? I sent 2 clips to the group today. Both of them look very real.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I just now realized why you sent the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you catching up now?
Continue.
I put a caption under it. These are reference for topic 1.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Okay.
Did not. That part I didn't pick up on. In my defense, I was doing some stuff for work. So.
Okay. But so that first clip I sent was AI videos from a pair what look like pastors preaching.
Yeah.
It's very, very scary because there's 6 or 7 of them that say almost the exact same thing word for word. Then they come out, but what they're saying is definitely not the truth. They're coming out and saying, what if sin isn't so bad? What if this is as good as it gets? What if this is already heaven? Those
Meaning
kinds
Earth.
of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Earth is already
What
heaven, yeah.
What if we're already in heaven and sin isn't sin, but it's all AI driven, and it looks real, it looks very very real, and it's kind of scary because we talked here several episodes back where the Antichrist is going to use AI
Mm-hmm.
to try to drive people away from the truth, and it's already starting. It's not a good thing. The second one that I sent was they even in the video they announced that they're not real, but it was a bunch of weather reports. A bunch of women saying they're giving weather reports. One had a great big huge sea monster coming out of the ocean.
I love that one. That one was my favorite.
It looks real. It looks very real, but it's not. And it's
Have
scary.
you never seen the Kraken on Pirates of the Caribbean?
Not saying that the Kraken doesn't exist, just saying in that instance, that video was not real, but it looks real.
We have a Kraken that sometimes frequents our podcast. That's beside the point. Moving on.
Yeah. So, with the fake church services and different things that are going on like that, so we said that the Antichrist is going to use any method he can to take people away from the truth. And it just seems like he's ramping it up real hard right here real quick.
Yeah.
And whenever we get on the Antichrist topic, I know Alex loves to get in on that.
Yes.
So, do you have anything? I've got a couple more things I want to come up after we talk about the Antichrist stuff, but I don't know what your opinion is on it, what you're thinking.
I mean, I've got a couple different thoughts and things. First off, personally, I don't think AI is the enemy. I think so. AI and I had a conversation. I don't know, it was a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. Because that had got brought up. I don't know. Somebody sent us. One of you guys put the video on there before, and I watched it. And I went on this whole rant. I don't know if you guys remember that. Anyway, so basically, my thoughts are AI is not the enemy. We are still the enemy.
Yes.
Ecclesiastes talks about nothing being new under the sun. My personal thoughts are that if we continue to put evil into AI will take it and run with it. But if we choose for AI to do good things, then AI is going to run with it. And so the issue is that more than likely humanity is going to do what humanity's always done and put evil inside of it to try to use it for personal gain or whatever, which is typically what humans do. So in that instance, AI is a very scary tool. At the same time, though, with AI, like a lot of people are starting to say AI is the Antichrist. I feel like Antichrist is a spirit, and until the day of the man of sin reveals himself, we don't really know. Like it's just a movement right now, but it's been a movement for like 2,000 years, because the apostles talked about the spirit of the Antichrist being in the world. So,
Yes.
do I think AI is evil? No. Do I use AI? I think you can use it for good. Yeah. I use it to help me at work. I use it to help me, formulate ideas. And you don't always have to take what AI says, but I run things past AI. Sometimes it actually helps me to calm myself down because AI is like, now, is that really what you should say? Or should you maybe word it this way?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I get, a little self-righteous and I want to, shout to the rooftops about stuff. And it's like, nah, let's calm it down a bit here, tough guy.
Yeah.
So, I think that's good. But like I said, maybe there's this whole Terminator thing. I think, did I tell you guys, like a friend of mine and I were on the phone one day, we were working and we went through this like whole Terminator scenario with AI.
Nope.
And then so we did that. And then he started asking AI questions about like how it would work. It was very weird. Anyway, that's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that maybe there's two different sides to the same coin. Is like there's a good side to AI and a bad side to AI.
Yeah.
And so On the sin spectrum, obviously sin's bad. You shouldn't be doing it. But I think sin also teaches us what not to do. And sin should not be something that we run towards. Sin should be something that we take when we create evil or do wrong, or disconnect from the Creator. We should be actively figuring out, okay, how do I not do that again? And how do I move towards Him? But a lot of people, what we like to do is we like to cover up our sin. Jerome and I had a conversation about this earlier about Michael Tate. You guys heard that guy? He's got this whole thing right now where he made a mistake, and I'll just go live on the record and say, hey, I also made a mistake. Thank God the Lord didn't put that out there for everybody to read about, but or that I didn't do that, because this is the thing. Michael Tate is going to have a long, hard road ahead of him because Christians don't want to forgive Christians, even though we all have sins too, just like he has. Only we didn't get exposed, and we're not on a huge platform. So, and the same thing goes for like other people as well. If you're actively living in sin, that means that you're a person that doesn't care that you're making mistakes, i.e., like Hitler, right?
Right.
But there's grace for guys like Hitler. You can never be 100% evil or 100% good. Mother Teresa still had problems. Hitler he was compassionate towards some people. He may not have been compassionate towards a bunch of people, but he was compassionate towards someone, his family, his children, co-workers, whatever. People loved that guy. And the same thing for Mother Teresa. She may not have always been kind to people. And so I personally believe the world is really seeing a lot of that. We're getting away from, blocking people in a group, right? And we're saying, how about we look at an individual and what's going on with them? But, again, when people are blasted for the things that they do wrong, it becomes more of an issue. And then that you have to walk through all of this. Like Lecrae went through this whole thing for a while. And people were just rude to him, because they felt like, well, he's not doing the Christian thing. So I think there's good and bad, and I think there's a balance in between the good and the bad. And that's my thoughts on AI as good and bad. But I think ultimately, humanity will use it for evil. And the more opportunity we have to build robotics, the more opportunity we have for programming. I hope to God there's somebody out there that watches our podcast that says, you know what, let's create a good robot. And then, that way when people who are not smart create evil robots, those good robots can help us, set things back in order.
Yeah.
Or we'll just wait until the creator returns.
Yeah. With that, though, every single week I hear another story where AI tried to take over something, rewrites its own code, to make it where it disobeys shutdown commands. It's getting too smart for its own good. But did I share that to you guys? I don't remember if I did or not. They put ChatGTP up against an Atari in chess.
Yeah, you did. You showed that. Yeah.
And the Atari won.
Yeah, praise God. We're in there.
That is. So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. So you're telling me there's a chance? The other thing I was going to say is Rob Soria is super. I don't know if he's against AI, but he has a lot of things to say about AI.
Yeah.
And most of them are not great. Most of it consists of his concerns on the fact that it is writing its own codes. My argument to Rob Soria is always like, well, what if it's trying to figure out on its own, what would be the good up for humanity? You know what I mean? And not necessarily following the human code, because like the world's idea of goodness for humanity is like Thanos, right? We've got to kill half the population for this whole Earth thing just to work right. That's not a great plan. It's like you didn't ask the half of the people you're going to kill whether they thought it was a good idea, you know. So hopefully maybe AI is like recognizing, hey, humans are really not doing great here, and they have a propensity to make themselves higher than others. And so, you know, one elite group basically rules the world at this point. And maybe AI is like, I don't know, that's a bad idea. It
Maybe.
may not. I don't know. It might just be like, yeah, let's take over the entire human race. But there's a chance. That's my argument. I don't know.
Yeah.
He'll probably disagree, but that's fine.
What you got, Leo?
There's good and bad to everything. There's always a good side of things. Like good things can happen from AI. Like it can produce good results with a lot of different things, but in the wrong hands, it can always produce bad too. So it's not always even the technology itself. Like people can make it do bad things too. It's not, but we could also do a lot of good with it.
Yeah.
In the right hands. So
Amen.
Amen. One last little section I got on this. So, do you know who Palmer Luckey is?
Never heard of him.
No. He's the creator of Oculus, which is now the Meta Quest.
Yeah.
So,
now I know what you're talking about.
okay. So, he was fired from Meta. You guys remember that? So, Facebook bought his company and then fired him.
As you do.
Yeah. So,
Stealing people's products. Oh.
So, well,
they bought it.
They bought it. Facebook bought him and the whole company included. Bought it.
Okay.
You know, so they bought the company. He got some money. He stayed with the company, went under the Facebook name. He went out and made some political statements and made a $9,000 donation to something that supported Trump. After that, they started coming after him, saying that he's supporting white supremacy, he's supporting anti-Semitism, and all kinds of other things.
As you do. So, a Trump supporter, yeah.
No. But, okay. So, he went out after he'd been fired. We're talking years after he's been fired. So, Meta came out with Ray-Bans with the AI in them that you can ask questions to. Mm-hmm. So, he asked the Ray-Bans why he got fired. And it said he got fired after being convicted of stealing trade secrets, which is false.
False information.
Because every single court case was thrown out.
Yeah.
With no verdict, thrown out. Also, convictions don't come down in civil court. They only come down in criminal court. Mm-hmm. Which all his cases were civil. So you got the Meta Ray-Bans lying about that. Also, it's all information that's most of it's been scrubbed from the internet anyway, but yet somehow they're still able to go back and pull that information up. So it's going to be weird times, I think, coming up here soon, because we don't know what AI is able to go back and pull. We don't know what they can search.
That's also a good point, because like something gets scrubbed from the internet, but AI already learned about it.
Correct.
So it's not gone completely because AI knows about it.
Yes. Correct.
So that could bring up some interesting things.
We can't find it anywhere, because the internet is so vast you'll never know or find it. But AI can search all this stuff so quickly. It knows where to go to find old documents to put out a narrative that maybe it's the programmers who programmed it, or maybe it's AI coming out and saying, hey, this guy is bad. This is what he did. And he really didn't do that.
That's very interesting. Well, I will say this. The crazy narrative that Trump and his support is the exact thing that the left is claiming not to be, although they are, is super crazy. I saw a video today of do you guys remember one of the actors from The Big Bang Theory? She was a Jew, or is a Jew. She put out a video basically explaining what it feels like to be a liberal Jew in California, and how she feels unsafe, and how she would feel much safer in the land of Israel, because everybody that says we are for Hamas and we're for the Houthis, and the Palestinians are totally against the Israelis, and they want death for all of Israel, not just
Yes.
one part of Israel, but all of Israel. And the narrative is continuously being put, which I think most people know that, by the way. But the problem is that people continuously push against Jews, against Israelis, but there are Palestinians that are also out trying to get the word out that, like, some people think that they're Jews because they were born in the land of Israel, but they're Palestinians, and they've been attacked by Hamas, and they've been attacked by the Houthis because they are not trying to kill Jews.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of twist in the. These Palestinians don't hate Jews. Like most of the Palestinian individuals that live in Palestine or Canaan or Israel, whatever you call it, most of those people are actually very peaceful. Yesterday or last night, I think it was last night, because their day they're a little bit ahead of us. But anyway,
Yeah.
around like 10, a bus full of Palestinian, Gazan humanitarian people who were there trying to help other people just like them, they got annihilated by Hamas. Like they blew up an entire bus full of innocent people. That were all Palestinians, by the way. They
Yeah.
were not Israelis. And so, the narrative of the left is to continue to push towards, and this is the far left too, but their narrative is to continue to push against Israel, against anything moral, against anything that has Christian or Judeo-Christian values, and destroy it completely because it's angry and it wants to kill. And that's basically what Hamas is. They have no regard for actual human life. They just they're terrorists. And that's what terrorists do. So I don't know how we got there. How do we get there?
We started talking about anti-Semitism.
Bingo. Okay, yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's actually on the rise yet again.
Yep.
It has been since October 8th or whatever. But
Since about 33 AD.
yeah, it's gotten pretty bad since then too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point that she made was that there are Holocaust museums. There's one here in Terre Haute. There's Holocaust museums. They're all over the U.S. They're all over Europe. There are still camps that you can go to. Auschwitz is running every day. Millions of people go through there to experience what the Jews went through. But it wasn't just Jewish people. They were gay people. There were Christian people. There were black people. There were all kinds of people that were flooded into there that just were against a political regime, and we call them the Nazi Party. Those individuals walk through those gates every day to experience and see what kind of horrible things were done. And yet there are people that are standing on the street corner shouting from the river to the sea, death to Israel. And it's like,
Yep.
Israel is the whole point of the reason why our government systems are the way that they are, because of the Torah. When Moses brought the Torah on Sinai, which is a holiday we just celebrated, that was the giving of the law, the Holy Spirit, right? The giving of the law. And that law changed the entirety of the world. It's where 99.999% of our moral values come from that. I don't care if you're a Satanist or not. If you have moral values, it came from the Torah. That's where it comes from. Because Hashem, God, that's the name of the Jewish God or the Hebrew God. Hashem gave Moshe the Torah, and that's where our morals come from. So I got into an argument with a Satanist one time, and he was like, "Well, I'm not immoral," and I was like, "Well, where did you get your morals? Because you didn't get them from Hasatan,
Nope.
the devil. You got them from Hashem, the one who gave the Torah to Moshe. So you're if you're going to follow morals, you're going to follow the Torah. Anyway, going back. Sorry, it's my fault.
Well, we've moved off to Israel, so we might as well move on to the next topic, because it kind of deals with that.
It does. This is, if you need to time me, because I've got a whole lot.
No, we are only 30 minutes in so far, and we're cutting the first 5 minutes out. So we're only 25 minutes technically into this episode.
There you go.
So you're on. Go.
Well, let me grab my notes real quick.
First thing, what's the title of this segment?
The Shemitah.
Shemitah.
Well, it's supposed to be
I
the
will tell you that that's not at all how I would pronounce that. So
how let me know how would you pronounce it?
I was saying Shemitah.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's how it's written. That's what it looks like. Um,
And I is from Indiana, so
yeah, and not just Indiana, Southern Indiana. So
I am not from Southern Indiana. You can calm down.
Well, I've got family from Kentucky, so I can say whatever I need. So it's more or less the mystery of the Shemitah. Jonathan Kahn is a huge proponent of this. The Shemitah. So I'll start by saying this, and this is not in my notes, but I definitely wanted to say this. So the Shemitah is a it's one of 9 harbingers that Jonathan Kahn has seen in recent history. So there's 9 of them. One of them is called Shemitah. Shemitah is a law in Israel, and basically it's it means a release or a shaking. It means a letting go. So the Shemitah follows along Shabbat. Shabbat is a time of rest. Shabbat is your weekend. I heard a Jewish guy say a couple weeks ago. He was, a comedian. He was like, the Americans love Judaism, and they all laughed, and they're like, why? And he said, because we gave them the weekend. You gave them Shabbat, and they call it the weekend. We call it Shabbat. Anyway, so Shemitah means release, shaking, or letting go. It's a 7-year cycle commanded in the Torah where the land rests, debts are released, and people let go of control. So what if the ancient commands of the Torah didn't just shape Israel, but what if it shapes world history? What if the whisper of the Shemitah, the cycle of release, is still rippling in the rise and fall of the nations? This is what Jonathan Kahn starts out with. And this cycle could still be ticking beneath the surface of history now. And I think it's 100% bulletproof, factual. You can determine what you want. But so the Shemitah in modern history, there's a pattern. It doesn't really start in 1917. That's kind of where he picks it up at. It's obviously been going on for a millennia. But when Israel is removed from the land because they weren't keeping the Shabbat laws, Shemitah allowed the land to rest, and Shemitah allowed for that Shabbat to happen. So Shabbat is rest. That's why the Shemitah is so important. When you're not resting, then there's shaking coming. 1917 is the first shaking that he talks about. There's 4 empires that fall in 1914: Russia, Germany, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire. Britain is in decline at this point. America rises as a global economic center. This is right after World War One. The Balfour Declaration land promises land to Israel, the Jewish people, and they start making their aliyah, as what they call it, home to Israel. So a Shemitah year is a great release and a shaking of the old world. So from 1938 to 1945, there's war, rise, and fall. 1938, Hitler's rise begins. 1945, Axis powers come into play. Then there's a collapse in Germany and Japan, obviously World War II. August 15th is the U.S. victory, which is right before Elul 29, September 7th, 1945. That's the end of the Shemitah year. And then in 1947, the UN votes for a Jewish state. So this is all very prophetic stuff happening because of the Shemitah. So 1996 to 97, another Shemitah. Jubilee restored, World Trade Center groundbreaking. 1967, the Six-Day War takes place. Jerusalem returns to Israel after 2,000 years. So imagine this, 1917 to 1967 is 50 years. Now, if you know anything about the counting of the Omer, if you know anything about Jewish holidays, if you know anything about the Shemitah year, 50 is Yovel. We would say Jubilee. So Yovel is a time to be joyous and jubilant. 1917 to 1967 is 50 years. That's 7 Shemitah cycles, which plus 1 year is a jubilee. So
Yeah.
the counting of the Omer, so from Pesach, the Passover, all the way to Pentecost, our celebration is Pentecostals. Pentecost, there's 50 days there. That 50th day is when you would celebrate, the giving of the Torah, which is what we talked about earlier. So this is a mirror to the Shemitah years. Every 7 years, you have a Shemitah year. Every 7 days, you have a Shabbat. And every year, you have a celebration of the giving of the law. And so
Yep.
this is why the world is the way that it is, because it was created for those things. Those are Moedim. Those are appointed times. There's times to rest. You don't work nonstop. You have to rest, America. You need to rest. So there's restoration, return, and divine timing. Moving on to 1973, a moral and economic shaking takes place. The World Trade Center is completed. And here's the big one. Roe versus Wade, the abortion is legalized. Bretton Woods is an economic system that collapses. Vietnam defeat takes place, and August 15th is another shaking. That's 4 Shemitahs after World War II. So the cycle continues again. So it doesn't mean that every Shemitah something is happening, and it also doesn't mean that the Shemitah is only focused on the United States, or that it can't be focused on other nations. But because the U.S. is the standing world power at the time and still now, these events are being recorded as this is why the Shemitah is doing what it's doing, right? It affects the entire world because it affects the U.S. because the U.S. was founded on Judeo-Christian values. So the value system of the Jews, when the Puritans came to the U.S. over Massachusetts, if you've ever been there, you know this. I've not been there, but I'd love to go. But there's different cities by the names of the different cities in Israel, and there, different events that were taking place that you couldn't walk too many steps on Shabbat because that was a rule back then. This is 17th century America. That was a rule. You could not walk too many steps, or else you would be in violation of the Torah, and you were put in prison, or you were put in jail or holding, because again, 17th century America. This is what's going on. So there's significance there. 2001, towers fall, markets crash. Moving forward, 9/11. Obviously, everybody knows what that is. The fall of the World Trade Center. September 17th is Elul 29. So right before the Shemitah, the towers fall. Elul 29 takes place. There's also a stock market crash because of 9/11. Shemitah's exact end. So the cycle climaxed a release of power, a fall. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have to go look back at my notes, but there's a section of Shemitahs that happened there as well. Let me go look at my notes real quick. So you can tell that all of this stuff is just, oops, that's wrong. All of this stuff it's continual build up and then fall, and continue build up and then fall. Let me see here. 21. So between 1945 and 1973, there's 28 years. That's 4 Shemitahs. 4 Shemitahs after 1973 is another 28 years. That's the climax of Shemitah and the fall of power. And then you have 07 and 08, which there's a stock market downward crash. That's 1 Shemitah. The financial collapse is in fall of September or Elul 29, the Jewish calendar, on the Jewish calendar. So there's a lot to be said there about that. And that's where we have to start recognizing, like, even events in our modern times are being affected by Shemitah. So 2015 we'll keep. And by the way, this isn't just these events. It's also like Great Depression is part of this. Other events are a part of the Shemitah. It really affects a lot of different stuff. 2015, there's a global economic tremor. Markets tremble because of Shemitah's close in August 2015. There are warnings, but no collapse that's as severe, but there's still a downward trend, right? Here's another really big one, and this is another one that's just fascinating because, we look at our recent events and we think, it's just people being people, or it's just coincidence. Here's 2017, Jerusalem's return again. So this is 50 years from 1967. Remember what happens in 1967? Israel regains Jerusalem because of the Six Day War, right? So 50 years since then. That's 49 years, and then 1 year, which would be 50. Jerusalem officially recognized as Israel's capital. The U.S. declares this, and obviously we know who that president was. That is a jubilee. It's a Yovel year. That has to do with the Shemitah. The pattern behind the curtain, is this coincidence or is it design? I believe it's design. Some people might have different ideology. There might even be, Israelis that don't necessarily agree with it. Maybe it's just coincidence. I don't think so, but this is me. I think it's an ancient rhythm given by the Torah that's still moving history. Empires rise, empires falls, as the Shemitah quietly ticks onward. So the story is this cycle is telling us if this is a pattern, if it's real, what might be next on the Shemitah. The next Shemitah happens at the end of 2028. So we are marching towards the next Shemitah. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot going on in 2025. There's a lot going on in 2025. So the Shemitah that is coming in a couple of years, probably going to be a significant Shemitah. And this is my final thought on the Shemitah. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Every modern history bows to the quiet rhythm of his time. So these are appointed times. These are things that God demanded and declared that we follow as his people. The problem is that we get so caught up in whether or not we feel like this is putting people under the law. Let me be very careful what I'm going to say here. If you're going to celebrate Christmas and you're going to tell people that if you don't celebrate Christmas, you're going to hell, that is putting someone under the law. If you're shouting over long skirts, long sleeves, long hair, short hair, no beards, if you're shouting over that stuff, that is putting people under the law, because the law is this: I have to do X, Y, and Z to make heaven. You do not get to choose that. It is by grace and only by grace. Now, works are good. Your faith should provoke you to good works, but your good works are not going to merit you into heaven. That is the grace of God that gets you there. So are you wrong for doing good works? No. But you're wrong when you tell people, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that to make heaven your home. Now, I believe in holiness standards. I believe in outward holiness standards. I believe in inward holiness standards. There are some people that don't put a lot of emphasis on outward holiness, and I understand that. Obviously, I believe in it, and I believe that it's a good thing. Men should look like men. Women should look like women. That's something my wife and I practice. However, this is the thing. When it becomes more about what you're wearing, your church attendance, how much you're giving the church, what you're doing at the church, and you stop remembering that you are a sinner just like everybody else is a sinner, and that you will get into heaven because of your good deeds and because of your tenure, you are now under the law. Because it's no different than you taking a ram, a lamb, or a bullock and taking it to the altar and sacrificing it, because that's exactly what Israel was trying to do. They were getting into heaven because of their works, not because of grace. Well, you have grace now. So when you fall, rely on Yeshua, Jesus, to bring you out of the turmoil and out of the darkness and set you in his light. His light is love. His light is peace and joy. And we have to get this. You cannot get into heaven because of your skirt. You cannot get into heaven because of your pants. How can you get into heaven? Because of the grace of Jesus Christ. Your faith is accounted as righteousness, and your faith should move you to do good works. Not that your good works will get you into heaven. And so, me celebrating a Jewish feast or a Christian feast or you know, other holidays, you know, Fourth of July, Veterans Day, that is not getting me into heaven. Just
No.
like, and this is another thing that Christians argue with in the U.S., which is just insane. Your political persuasion is not getting you into heaven, whether you are on the left or the right. Neither one of them are right. Arguably, Jesus would not have known what a Republican even is. And no, he did
Yeah.
not wear a "Make America Great" shirt again. He did not wear that.
Nope.
He wore a talit, and if you don't know what that is, you can go look that up. But he wore one of those, and it was very Jewish, and he was definitely more of a Pharisee than anything. But he did not know what American politics were. He did not drive a Prius. He didn't wear. He might have wore sandals, but that's beside the point. But he didn't have a Starbucks
They
T-shirt.
all wore sandals.
Yeah, there's a lot of sandal wearing back then. But the point that I'm trying to make is works does not get you into heaven. The grace of God gets you into heaven, and only His grace. And so, give people the benefit of the doubt and forgive them when they fall. Forgive Michael Tate. Michael Tate, hey man, I forgive you. You know, we all make mistakes. Welcome to the party of being a sinner. I'll be your host. Welcome to the planet. Nobody here is without mistakes.
Yes.
You know, even El Pope has mistakes. You know, he's not a holy man. No, there's no holy man. You know, not even the high priest in Israel is holy.
No.
And there still needs to be atonement for every person. And that's where the church needs to understand that these Moedim are important. The Shemitah is obviously very important. Shabbat is very important. It's not, you know, it's not required that you follow these things clearly. It's not required, but it's a good thing that you would follow. If you did follow them, it'd be a good thing. But if you didn't, oh well. It's just as good as you celebrating Christmas and giving your kids gifts. By the way, Jewish families give their kids gifts too on Christmas because they have to figure out how to, you know, like, hey, he's getting gifts every day. You know, this guy only
Yep.
gets so many gifts. So some Jewish families do that, and that's totally okay. It's not. It doesn't diminish the feast at all. It doesn't make it. I mean, you don't have to do those things, but you know, kids want to know like, why is this guy getting gifts and I don't get any gifts? You know,
Yep.
but birthdays, anniversaries, those aren't in the Bible. I'd love to see when people celebrate those. You get a birthday weekend and a birthday month. You know, but we argue about the Moedim. We argue about these appointed times. They're biblical. And arguably, if you want to go back and test me on this, go back in the Bible and see what does God call them. He calls them the feasts of Adonai, the feasts of the Lord. That means they are continually there. They're continually important. Now, do
Yes.
you have to follow them in order to make heaven? Absolutely not. There's probably people who didn't follow them in the past who died, probably going to be in heaven because he gets to choose who goes to heaven. Because guess
Yes.
what? This goes back to one of our old podcasts. He is in control. You're not going anywhere outside of what the creator tells you to do. That's why he's called the creator, because he decides what it is that you do. The clock creator told the clock, make time, do the time thing, and the clock cannot step out of its side of itself and become a zebra, you know. But we as humanity, we want to be something different. I know I'm going off on a tangent here. But the clock can't look out the window and say, "Oh man, I'd love to be a tree." You were created to be a clock. You can't be a tree. You know. So
Yep.
humans, you're created to worship Adonai. You're created to visit the Lord on an appointed day. It doesn't necessarily have to be Shabbat, but Shabbat is holy. It would be a great time if you did, but you don't have to. If Sunday works for you, then that's your Sabbath, and praise God. I know that's what we do. There's nothing wrong with celebrating though. If you want to be Tuesday afternoon, it could be Tuesday afternoon. But you spend 24 hours of time away from it, away from the world, away from work. You allow the Shemitah to take place. You allow the rest to take place. Nothing because that time is a sacred time to help you understand you're not created to create things and to work and to never have a break. That is a time of a breaking, of a resting, and it happens once a week. It happens once a week, and then it happens yearly, and then it happens every 50 years. There is a resting, and if the U.S. could get that, I think the U.S. would totally see some changes and shifts. Because again, we make this thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I know you guys are probably going to say something about Shemitah, but or if you have questions. But this last thing I want to say, it is not about Judaism. This is not about Judaism. This is about the God that created Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that God? That is the God of the Old Testament. That God robed himself in flesh, came as the Son of God. He called himself Jesus, Yeshua. He became a man and he died for the sins of the world because God is a man and a real man takes care of issues for his children. He does not make his children
Yep.
take care of his issues. There's only one God, and his name is Yeshua. So there you have it. That's my final thought. That's the Shemitah, though. There's so much more. There's not enough time to explain it all. But so, questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah. Not really related to Shemitah, but he said a clock can't become a tree, but a tree could become a clock. So
Yeah, that's true. Well, that actually has something different to do because when you think about different aspects of creation, God actually wants to partner with humanity to become creators. So there is an aspect. There's nothing wrong with you becoming a creator. Whether you're making an item for people to use, or you're some other kind of creator. God wants to partner with you and allow you to become that creator. But what God is doing, like for instance, bread is the one element that you can break down and you can create it into something totally different from what its original state is. And trees are exactly the same. There's actually some deep connections with trees and the Torah, and obviously the book is called the Tree of Life. So that there's a whole connection there too. Trees are super cool.
mm-hmm.
Troy, you got any comments, concerns, or questions?
Nope. There's a lot of good information in that. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
when I Googled that, it came up with just a basic 7 years you let everything rest thing. I didn't get any of the conspiracies, not really conspiracy, but any of the factual things of what happens
Yeah.
every
Well,
time one's happened in the last 50 years. But
yeah. So the interesting thing is, I mean, it could just be a coincidence. So I'm not saying that. Personally, I don't think that it is. I don't think it's a coincidence
I don't
because
believe in coincidences
I
around
don't.
here.
Yeah, I don't either. Because it happens so boom, boom, boom. The event after event after event after event, and if you look at it from a global scale and you just look at timelines and the things that happen, like major events that happen around the world, every 7 years something crazy takes place. Even COVID happens like right after Shemitah. So it's still going on. The new presidential things happen because of Shemitahs, and wars take place because of Shemitahs, and it basically is the Shemitah. The creator is going to get what the creator wants. You can either fight against the creator or you can do what he's asking you to and partner with him. But either way, he's going to get what he wants. So you're either, if you're a clock, you're either going to tell time or you're going to tell time. Or you're going to sit there and not tell time, but you'll be a broken clock, but you'll still be a clock. You're not going to be anything else. If you're a pool, you're going to be a pool because you were created to be a pool, and you're going to hold water whether you want to hold water or not. Nobody asked you what you wanted to be. I find it interesting. We like to argue what the Bible says, but if we just took for what the Bible says, the Creator didn't ask us whether or not, he didn't ask like, "Hey, Leo, what do you think about a Shemitah?" He just put it in there. He didn't ask me what I thought about male and female. He made male and female, and that's what he made. He never asked me, "Hey, Alex, do you think male and female is good? You think we need more or less, or maybe there should be 50?" No, no, no. He said there's two, male and female. That's something I heard a preacher say one time is like, God didn't ask us. He just did what he wanted us to do. And there it was. You know what I mean? He didn't ask me if lungs was a good idea. He didn't ask me if eyeballs would be how we should see, or if we should, thumb around in the dark the whole time. He started creating things, and then things became because he created those things. So a lot of times, we look at, but the issue all goes down to control. I want to be in control. I'd like to be the one that says, this is the way things should be. God never asked me. I'm angry about it. Well, he's the creator. If he wanted to ask you, he would have, but he didn't. You know what I mean? And sure, there are some things where he can partner with us, absolutely. But with the overarching things like trees and grass and oxygen, he didn't and gravity. He didn't really ask us about that stuff. He just created that because he saw that it was good.
Very, very good.
Absolutely.
Man.
So the Shemitah, like I said, is super, super cool. There's so much more to it. I'll just give this plug in here as well. Jonathan Kahn, Messianic rabbi from New Jersey, goes around the country, does a lot of preaching. That guy wrote a book called The Mystery of the Shemitah. I'm currently reading it. I was trying to get through it before today, but I still have a couple hours left. Anyway, great book. If anyone is looking for a good book to read based on Yovel, Jewish feasts, or just understanding how the Bible affects current events, the Shemitah is a good start. You can definitely go to the Shemitah, read it. The Mystery of the Shemitah is really good. And it's an audiobook, so I like it even more because audiobooks are my lane, and I can listen to it while I drive for hours and hours and hours. Leo has such a long commute now. Like my commutes are like 2-3 hours. Leo's commute's like 5 seconds. Get up out of the bed, roll out of the bed, like sit down on his chair.
Walk down the hallway.
Yeah, walks down the hallway to the office. I mean, my wife's is as well. Like my wife's commute from the bedroom to her office is traffic jams galore. It's usually the dog laying on the floor.
Yep.
Like that's the traffic jam. I get stuck because there's like people wrecking into each other, bombs exploding, people arguing about stuff, skinwalkers walking out in front of you in the road. 2 or 3 hour drive, just chaos, madness, birds just suspended in air, and then my wife has to deal with Apollo laying on the ground.
Yep.
Speaking of Apollo, we have some sponsors. We do have some sponsors, folks, and I did want to put this little plug in there. In the spirit of one of America's sweethearts, Phil Robertson, I'm taking a little bit of a step back from the wild world of social media. The man wasn't a fan of the internet, and honestly, I get it. While I can't go full duck blind and unplug completely, I am working on cutting the cord, one meme at a time. So I'm gonna try to stay off the internet a lot more and focus on the scripture and reading the Bible. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, so our first sponsor this summer, when your mouth's drier than Tatooine and the tension's higher than a Wookiee on caffeine, there's only one chew that brings balance to the Force. Chewie. He said, cue Chewie's weird voice that he makes, and then Han shot first. There you go. Chewy, the gum that bites back. So our next sponsor, introducing False God Fragrance. Top notes of incense, middle notes of arrogance, and a smoky golden finish. Worn by high priests, rebellious nations, and people who thought lightning wouldn't strike twice. False God Fragrance. Because nothing says worship me like the scent of imminent judgment. Our next one of my personal favorites. Are you tired of life exposing you? I know I am. Need something natural that covers your rear spiritually and literally? Introducing duck feathers that cover your butt quack. Waterproof, holy proof, and judgment resistant because even Adam wished he had these. Duck feathers. It's not a covering, it's a calling. Our next one is GTA flu. When the streets are mean and your immune system is weak, sneeze your way through missions, cough in cutscenes, and earn respect while feverish rated F for flu shots not included. GTA flu, it's contagious, and also now somehow on Xbox. So the next one, feeling edgy, want to annihilate friends and make everyone deeply uncomfortable at brunch? Try Hitler Stylist Stash. The facial hair that ruined a century. Each kit includes tiny scissors, an overinflated sense of self-importance, and the guarantee that no one will sit next to you ever again. There's a warning here. You may result in eternal infamy and social excommunication. Here's another favorite of ours, returning again, Sleepy Joe's socks. Having trouble staying awake during major life decisions? You're not alone. Introducing Sleepy Joe's socks. So soft, even your subconscious approves. Each pair is infused with melatonin, nostalgia, and a slight scent of Delaware. Sleepy Joe socks, because sometimes the nation needs a nap. And yes, they put the Z in democracy. Okay, and I think this is our final one. So apocalyptic in nature, the countdown has begun. Your sabbatical year is approaching. The debts are due. The harvest is questionable. Introducing the Shemitah clock, the only prophetic timepiece that syncs with Torah, Wall Street, and your uncle's End Time podcast. Don't wait until the trumpet blast. Get a Shemitah clock because judgment doesn't hit snooze. So there you have it. There are our sponsors for the week. And I would talk about the one sponsor, but I don't want to be murdered later. So I might bring up that sponsor at the end of the podcast.
I'm confused.
Yeah, it has to do with that photo that you sent a little bit ago of a certain particular situation.
Yeah, we can leave that be.
I don't know. Maybe we should explore it. I don't know. Let's see what ChatGPT can come up with, and then if it says anything good, then I might throw it in at the end. Where is the tie muster at? The tie-inator, the tie-dye guy.
What time was that? 9:13. He said, just getting in.
Oh my gosh, what a loser! All right, I'm asking ChatGPT about this photo. Would you, if we did one, would you throw it up? I don't know.
I just have a blurry, very, very blurry photo. It's not a good photo.
It's a great photo. I think it's everything you need to see and then some.
I'm trying to take a picture of a picture.
Yeah, well, your thumb's in the way.
I have large thumbs. It's hard to not be in the way.
No, it's okay. Everybody has large thumbs.
Not everybody.
Anyway.
Well,
if you'd like to, you can work on that for next episode.
Yes, I'm working on it.
I don't think it'll hurt any less next episode than it would this one. So we can.
No, well, because Tyler's not here, so it'll hurt that much more because he didn't get to be a part of it.
All right, so next episode. No, we're doing the next episode. Next episode. So moving on. So I got my. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Let's get ready to rumble.
I love it.
In the red corner.
Yeah.
Mr. Trump coming in allegedly at 6'3" and 215 pounds. In the black corner, Mr. Elon Musk coming in at 198 pounds.
And a slightly awkward.
Very, very slight case of autism.
slight.
has too much money, nobody really cares.
So, there was an internet feud last week. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. I did.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
I'm going to pull up the initial tweet because I has it ready. I don't remember what button pushed. That one right there. Share screen. iCloud Notes. Sheriff. Ding. And, of course, it moves when I do that. Boom. I think I gotta be dumb. Sorry, guys. It's being dumb on me here.
That's what it's good at.
Because it's giving me a stupid-sized window. We'll just go full screen and see what it does.
All right, I gotta say, this is golden stuff right now.
All right, so this dumb computer getting on my nerves here.
I mean, we could save it for next week, but it's juicy and ready to go. So it's juicy and ready to go. I only see the bottom of your note section there.
I'm having technical difficulties at the moment
Oh,
because screen sizes and all those
Better
fun things
Finances. Seniors born from 1941 to 1975.
Probably because you're using iCloud Notes.
79 received
I'm going
12
to
benefits
switch.
this
All
month.
right. So, right there. It's on the screen now. So, Elon Musk posted. This says 7 hours ago. Definitely wasn't 7 hours ago. I screenshot it the day he posted it. It says, I'm sorry. I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. you know you did wrong. You know it.
You know it.
And this is the big beautiful bill that he's talking about here. So
Remind me how that is, because I've not been paying attention to Daddy
the big
T's
beautiful bill
expenditures.
is the Donald J. Trump's prize bill is going through. It's not great. It does increase the deficit still. And that's
Shocking.
where Elon has his biggest thing, because what's he been trying to do for the last 4 months?
Fix it.
He's been trying to reduce the deficit.
Yeah.
And then now they introduced a new bill that increases the deficit once again. So he was not happy.
Okay, can I say this? Shocker. He's a Republican. He's a politician. Guess what politicians are really good at? They're like car salesmen. They lie about a lot of stuff. Sorry for all the car salesmen that may or may not watch our podcast. Love you. We love you.
So-
We love you, filthy liars.
Technically, he wasn't a Republican, and then technically he wasn't a politician until recently.
Well, yeah, now he is, but he was, and I don't know. I think this time around he knows a lot more than he did last time around. So I will say that I'm not totally against him. I'm not 100% for him. I'm not really totally against or for the Republican Party or the. I'm kind of like dead smack in the middle here. I want to see good on both sides. I see bad on both sides a lot. I've yet to see any real solutions though either.
No, well, Doge was the solution,
Yeah,
but
for
at
like
the same
20 minutes.
Obama did a good job creating that.
That is funny.
Obama created a lot of things, Leo.
He literally did create that, though.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna share this screen. Hopefully, here it doesn't do something dumb again.
How many millions and trillions of dollars is the U.S. in debt, by the way? And where do we keep getting this money from? I want to know that.
We keep borrowing it.
From who?
China. You know what? I just shared the wrong stinking thing.
You're probably not off. Let's ask Google.
Shared the wrong thing. Screen. Facebook. Share. Now we got the right thing. So, bing. All right. So that's the same one we just read. We go to the next one. Elon. This one here said the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half. Elon came out and was talking that he was going to cancel his contracts with the government and decommission Dragon, so the government couldn't use it. I mean, it was getting heated there for a little bit. Where are we going? I got more. What did Tyler do to me? This one here, Elon reposted again. President Trump on Elon Musk. Elon has never asked me for a thing. I mean, I got rid of the EV mandate, but he's never asked me for a thing. I think it's amazing opportunity. Elon is a patriot, so this is showing. I don't know. The feud was almost seemed a little bit more one-sided.
You don't think Trump
Yeah.
was? Trump said some pretty crazy stuff about what's his face too.
He did,
so.
But here's the big one. Elon Musk, time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public.
Yep.
Have a nice day, TJT. We've all seen pictures of him with Epstein, but we don't know for sure what's going on. And that's always the bad part. We don't know what happened. We don't know what's going on. It's kind of scary.
I've also seen posts talking about there were a lot of people like, then why were you around him knowing that? How much of this, how long have you known this information, basically?
Right. Yeah,
And
people were asking, why would you let your kid around him if you knew all this about him?
Yeah.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the all of the Hollywood people, and Trump's been a Hollywooder for a long time.
Yes.
But politicians, millionaires, listen, they all go to parties together that they throw for each other. Some of them are dark. We all know that. Some of them aren't as dark. And then you have the whole Bohemian Grove guys who probably don't want to hang out with. But I would argue that there's probably a lot more crazy stuff that rich people can get away with because, and I might be a little counterculture here, but in the U.S., if you have the money, you don't go to jail. And how do we know that's true? There's a really big thing going on right now. It's what's that one guy's name? P. Diddy. I don't know how long this guy's been. The diddler has been diddling for a diddle, and
Decades.
he's been diddling for decades.
Decades.
And like the guy's got money, so the popos don't do nothing. Which also brings me to the fact that I want to say this. I think we have a lot of good cops out there, and I appreciate law enforcement. I really do. My dad was a cop for a while, but I do want to say this: more and more, the closer we get to the end of the age, I really believe that government-funded police things are becoming more and more gangs themselves. They have a badge, they have a uniform. Gangs have uniforms too. They all have bandanas and they all carry a piece. And here's the thing: if you think that pulling a weapon on a person should scare them, I already died. I died to the flesh some time ago. So if you pull a piece on me, you're just getting me that much closer to the creator, guy. So what are you gonna do? Take my life from me? You can pull the trigger every day, all day long, and if the creator said, "Nah, it ain't happening," I
Right.
don't care what anybody says. So, but so many people are afraid of dying, and if you're in Christ, you should already be dead to the flesh. So you shouldn't be worried about dying because that's your go home ticket. So I'm not giving people a free pass to come to my house and fire at me, but here we are. Anyway, so I definitely want to say that, but the police force is starting to be more of a gang and less of, hey, we're trying to take care of citizens, because here's the deal. And it's just going to continue to get worse when you give presidents, dignitaries, politicians, kings, whatever you want to call them, more and more power, and you take away the rights of the people. You turn into a tyrannistic government, and at some point, we have a lot of law enforcement officers who believe this. By the way, I have a couple of friends that are police. Like I said, my dad was a cop. He's still in. He does ambulance stuff now. But what I want to say is this: all those people understand at some point that there's coming a time where their job and the scripture are coming to a collision point. And that is, am I going to arrest people that believe in the one true God and incarcerate them, even though they're totally innocent, but my boss is telling me that I have to go round up people? It's 1930s Germany. I have to round up Jewish people because they're Jews and put them in this box truck. And I guarantee at some point somebody thought they were doing the right thing, and maybe they were lying and they were being told, "Oh, we're just moving them across town." And then they end up in a camp somewhere. So maybe not everybody was doing the wrong thing, but let's just be honest. Most of those guys knew what was going on, especially when the ash started to fall and it was like nowhere near December. That was human ash falling and covering the streets. If you've never seen Schindler's List, it's a horrifying show, but it does a great job of explaining what Germany was like during that time and really what Europe was like. So at some point, these guys know, hey, there's a collision coming. And I am a believer also, and I'm not going to incarcerate people. So again, it's the innate: am I a good person or am I a bad person? And do I want to be in control of the people? And here's how you know whether you're a good person or a bad person. Your ideology of control is fear, manipulation, and lies, or your ideology of leadership is serving people, elevating other people, and giving people space to grow. If you're doing those things, you're a good person, you're a good leader. If you're doing the opposite of that, you're doing the wrong thing. So yeah, I'll be right back.
Disappeared.
He did. Where did he go to?
Oh,
Home on is always late. Tell them to
Okay,
show
my apologies.
for the 8 o'clock show. You always have dinner in hand.
What?
What?
What song is that? I like the last part. You always have dinner
Yeah.
in hand.
Yep.
That's good. What's for dinner?
So, I don't know. What are you having?
I just had chicken nuggets.
Chicken nougatos, huh?
Yep.
Tomo arigato chicken nugato.
Hey, I don't think the guy is getting on. I don't think he's getting on.
I don't think he's coming either. Don't think he's coming. So we got our first sponsor for next week, 2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks from now we will release the horrifying photo, and hopefully that person doesn't watch our podcast. Otherwise, she's going to come after. Let me just say, Tyler's the one that did it.
Tyler's the one that did it.
Tyler's the one that did it, gentlemen. I think the missus is still at church, so. Man, I feel like I've really talked a lot. But you asked me some deep questions. We talked about the Shemitah, and we talked about Trump and Elon. I did not expect to see that happen. I did not expect to see that happen.
I didn't either. Allegedly, they've made up now.
Yeah, they've been talking. I don't know if they've completely made up, but they've actually been talking. And it looks like Musk made a post Wednesday morning that he said he regretted some of his posts about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Saying that they might have went a little too far.
Let me just say this too. I think that Trump's whole involvement with oh boy, I don't think it went as far as some other people's involvement. It wasn't like Trump was going to the diddlers, layer and oiling everybody up.
No.
That's a total different scenario. But what I will say is, if you've seen it and you're not saying anything, you're just as guilty. However, this goes back to my Michael Tate statement. There has to be grace for humans. You've got to give people grace. And I think Trump's come a long way, man. I mean, you're looking at who he was in the 90s and even in the early 2000s. I never expected that guy to run for president. And I've never expected him to even endorse Christianity or endorse the things. And let me tell you this much. The one thing that I heard from him this week is that he said, I am on a mission from God. And a lot of people are twisting that. A lot of people are saying that he is God, or that he sees himself as, a creator type figure. Obviously, I think the guy knows the kind of power he has, being the seated president of the most powerful country in the world. But I do believe he understands that he is on a mission from God. Cyrus wasn't a bad king. The king of Persia wasn't a bad king. Here's what they did. They helped the Jewish nation. They put the temple back. King Cyrus was a big proponent of the temple, or at least getting Jews to Israel for the temple. And then so was no, I think it was just Cyrus anyway. But there's several different. Pharaoh during the time of Joseph, not a bad Pharaoh. Pontius Pilate did not appear as though he was for the death of the Messiah. Mm-hmm. He just didn't stop the people. He said, I'm washing my hands clean of this, and he walked away. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. Probably not. But at the same time, he fulfilled the will of God, because had he stepped in and said, no, this guy's innocent, which he did say he was innocent, but if he had not done that, there wouldn't be any redemption for sin. So, you got to think about that for a moment. These dignitaries aren't always bad people. They're not always for the Creator, but everybody's going to do what the Creator desires. And so King Ahasuerus is another one who, at some point he allows for Haman to make a decree to kill all the Jews. And right before that decree is actually spread out through the Persian Empire, Mordecai and Esther stop it, and he revokes that and actually turns it completely around. That's the whole story of Esther. So there are many different places and many different parts of history where people have played a huge significant role, but weren't necessarily considered, part of the church or part of the people of God or whatever, but they weren't standing in opposition. And so this is kind of where I think Trump is at the moment. I think his role is to see the fulfillment of the Jewish temple being built. And that is super significant for the time that we live in, because that's what we need in order for Messiah to return. So It could be off. It could be 200 years from now. You never know. But and this could just be a moment of whatever, right? But it could also be the most significant time, and we could see the literal rebuilding of the Jewish temple. I think we are so close that probably the Jews can taste it. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
It seemed like it would probably be any day. Watch what the Temple Institute posts every day on Facebook.
Yeah.
They are ready.
The Kohen are there. The Kohen are ready. They're actually learning how to do sacrifices now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, that is a huge thing. With them, like that means that you've somewhat prepared. You're somewhat preparing to do the simple sacrifice, which begs to argue: are those heifers still alive? I don't know. I mean, there's nothing that says that they aren't, but there's nothing that says that they are. And I don't think Israel needs to take the chance and allow them to continue to grow. I guarantee you, there's like an 89% chance that they've already burned one. Yeah. They just did it in secret. And this is why the Arab nations are angry, because they know the Jewish God is coming and they don't want to mess with that guy. They would rather him not come. They don't want, so they're stifled. That's why they put all those tombs on the eastern side of the Temple Mount, because Messiah is going to come. And here's what they don't know. For Jews, it's unclean for a Jewish man to walk in a graveyard. It's totally unclean. However, Messiah doesn't need to walk through a graveyard, because he'll open the graves. So they put all those tombs on the eastern side when he comes down off the Mount of Olives and goes through the Kidron Valley and then up into the Temple Mount. All those tombs are going to be open. All those people are going to get out of their grave, and he's going to walk through that eastern gate. So that's the event. It's death is not going to stop the Messiah, because he's already defeated death.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, there you go. So takeaways: there's one God. His name is Yeshua. He is the embodiment of Yud He Vav He, which is the name of the God of the Old Testament. In English, we call him Jehovah. I won't say his Hebrew name because it's not really how you pronounce it, but Jehovah is his name in English. Jesus is his name. Yeshua is his name. The dog is licking the face. That's another takeaway from the podcast. There is an anonymous photo floating out there of an anonymous woman that we're going to show you in a couple weeks. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. If not, I'll show you another embarrassing photo of Tyler.
I'm scared.
I'm excited. I'm genuinely giddy, like a schoolgirl, that we could share this photo with the world, and that we're going to make fun of it. I don't know. We might not do it. I don't know. I have to seek wisdom and godly counsel for that, but they would probably do it to me. So, people talk about me behind my back all the time. So what the heck? Hey, it's part of the journey, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
If they're talking about us, they're not talking about someone else.
Bingo. Yahtzee. She would definitely kill me. I want you all to know that. There will be a price on my head. There may or may not already be a price on my head, but that's beside the point. I don't have any insider information on that yet. I'll get back with you on it.
Why would there be?
It's a good question. I'm sure it has something to do with Israel.
No.
There you have it. So that wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Share to your grandmothers and your grandfathers, because they need to hear it.
And they need to know that AI videos are out there and to stop watching them.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are going to get hurt the most by them.
Don't go watch. You know what? Let me just say this. Nick Swardson did an hilarious comedic bit where he talks about the newer movie Transformers that come out. He said, what if we time traveled and put that in a theater in the 50s? He said people would be crawling out of their skin.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's something somebody needs to do. So our time traveling podcast watchers, you need to get the Transformers movie, go back in time and play it at a 50s movie theater, and then record that and send it in to www.troyandleo.com.
Not a real website.
Yep.
No, not at all.
They can
Not a real website.
they can go in the future, grab that website, shoot it on back. It's okay. I'll make one. I have no idea how to make websites, so it'll be a while. It probably will take 10,000 years and a supercomputer.
And another time traveler, because they're going to have time travel 10,000 years in the future
Yeah.
to go back.
To help me figure out how to make one website. So there you go. Okay.
All
Like, subscribe, and share.
All right. All right. Good night, folks. Talk to the hand because the face ain't listening. You are definitely all screwed up now.
Oh,
Hey, look, Bigfoot's on the middle screen. Bigfoot's on the middle screen.
Yeah. Do your whole do the whole podcast like that.
Blurry creatures.
All
Right
out of
there.
Focus.
He is the blurry creature.
Yeah. Hey, so speaking of them, a couple of episodes I listened to in the last 2 weeks. One of them had to do with the Giants in Argentina. No, not Argentina. Somewhere. Peru. The Peru Giants. Had to do with
Peruvian,
the Peruvian Giants. Have you guys listened to that one?
I have not listened to it, no.
It's very unbelievable. Yeah. Well, let me just say this. I think giants are real. However, I think they're very overly exaggerated to the point where, like, I think scholars would argue that the giants in the Bible are more or less like maybe 15 foot tall, basically. What I think people are trying to make them out to be is like 35 feet, 250 feet, like we're talking giants, like the movies. I don't know that they're that tall. Goliath was 9 cubits, I believe. And if you do a cubit, it really depends on who you are. If you're my cubit, right? Yeah, it's that. If you're my cubit, you're going to be a heck of a lot shorter because I'm just a short, chubby little thing. If you're, like someone else's cubit, that's much taller and looks handsomer, they're probably going to be a different size. So I would argue that Goliath is probably between 9 and 15 foot tall, somewhere in that range. So he was definitely a giant. No, not saying that at all. But if they're actually still living is the question. And this dude went down into wherever he goes to. I don't think he's been there yet, but he's heading back there. But here's the interesting thing: they did some GPR work, which I do that every day. And so I definitely want to look at some of those scans to see kind of what they found. They're looking for tunnels underground that go from monolith to monolith where these giants are migrating under the earth. I don't know. It seems a little bit far-fetched, but I want to be more skeptical than believing because of what I've said before. So,
dude, all I got to say is even Abraham Lincoln stated the fact that there were giants.
Yeah, no, I totally believe that they were real, but I don't know if they're still real today is what I'm trying to say. If they're still walking the earth. But I'm glad that, you can start recording whenever. So.
Oh, we already are.
Really?
Really?
I didn't want that part in there. I didn't need that part in there.
Too bad.
It'll be at the end of the episode where nobody ever watches too, so it's fine.
I don't believe that. I believe it's at the beginning of the episode.
It's at the beginning of the recording. That means it's at the beginning of the episode.
Well, that's true.
We haven't given the intro yet.
Correct. Alex hasn't gave the intro yet.
No, you. I thought you had fixed it.
Fixed what?
You did the. You're gonna have to make it.
I can't play it now.
Well, no, you can add it later. Yeah, you can add it later.
And I can put it at the beginning. I can put it in the middle. Put it at the end.
I would argue
I have the power.
at the beginning would be a great. I think at the beginning would be a great place for it, but that's just me. Of course, I'm also. I don't really follow rules of law. I'm more of a fly by the seat of your pants and party it all the way there type of individual. You can ask my wife; she believes it. She
lives it every day.
She is the opposite of fly by the seat of our pants. And in fact, I give her a lot of struggle
I believe that.
because there's no plans. We just fly. We're flying. We're flying at 95 on a regular. So, yeah. Well, I will say she has negatively affected that because I'm a lot more calmed down now that she's a part of my life, and there's this consistent voice way back in the back yelling like, "You need to have a plan. You need to have a plan." It's like, well, wait a minute. What is a plan, and why do I need one? Never heard that word before. Anyway, moving on. Sorry about that. Commercial.